Okay, we've seen how you send activities to the students, but what's it actually like for the students to do the activities within the app? And how do they get feedback? And what happens to the results that they actually create? Well, let's look at that now. So let's look at this activity. This is a language activity. And imagine that I'm a student, here I am in the student app, and I'm going to try this activity. So in this activity I have to match the word to the definition. So let's try this. There we go. And let's say that I look at these answers and I'm happy with what I've done. Then I select Submit. Now when I select Submit, I immediately get to see which answers I got correct and which I didn't get correct. So I can look at the answers here, and I can also select Show Answers to see what I should have put. Now this is very important. The app gives students immediate feedback. This is very important. This helps with their retention of information, and also, following the principles of formative assessment, it gives the students to see where they need to take control of their learning and perhaps try different strategies, see which strategies are working, and think about which areas of knowledge they actually need to work on themselves. Okay, now this is an example of a closed activity. So there's only one right answer for each option. However, we also have open activities where students can write a wide variety of things, or model answers. For example, this activity. So on a model answer activity, students will write their answer, and submit, and then they can select Show Answers to see a model answer. So this is a suggested example answer, and students can compare this answer with what they wrote and see if they actually met the requirements of the task. So open and model answers are very important because EF class is not just about doing very closed activities, it's also about students using their creativity, their critical thinking skills, and their higher order skills. Okay, so that's what the student sees. Now, there are also some very important things that the teacher will see while this is being done. So, for example, here we see on this warm-up activity, on the card, the activity card, the information that 1 out of 1 student has responded to this activity. And if we go down to language, we can see 1 out of 1 student has responded there. Now what this tells the teacher is that at least 1 student in the class has submitted. Now with a bigger class, we'd see a different number, perhaps 10 out of 30 students have submitted. But it means that the teacher can see where the students are in their work. So particularly if you've queued up a lot of activities, the teacher can see how many students have actually completed that activity, and they can think about how they might want to adjust the pacing of the lesson. Also importantly, the teacher can see the average result for the class for that particular activity. So for that language activity, the teacher can see the students got about 40% of the answers correct. Now the teacher can see even more detailed activity during the lesson by going to the button View Student Responses. So here, this is a class of 1 student, and we see this row has information on that 1 student. It tells the teacher all the information on how the student's done on these particular activities. If there were more students in this class, the grid would of course be larger with more rows. Now, importantly, the teacher can select one of these cards to actually see what answers the student gave. So in real time, while the class is being run, you can simply select from these cards to see what the students wrote, and you can see where they might need additional help or where they're doing particularly well. This is an example of a closed activity, but for example, we can look at model and open activities. We select this, we can actually see what the student wrote for question 2. So even though the students are working on their own devices, or working in pairs or in groups, as a teacher, you're able to see what they've actually written once they've submitted during the course of the class. So you can adjust the lesson or give different types of feedback to the student in response to what they've actually written. Okay, so you've got these results, you've got the student responses, you see how the students are doing. So let's say that you wanted to change the lesson in some way at this point. How would you actually go about doing that? How do you edit a lesson in real time? That's what we'll look at now.